I have no intention of doing business with a company that has people like you. Are you trying to ruin my company? Why don't you just leave already?
My ex-wife, Jane, waved her hand as if she were shooing away a bug, and then opened the door, gesturing for me to leave.
When you get back, your company's CEO will be pulling his hair out. A big deal for a small company, ruined by an incompetent employee.
Jane said in her shrill voice, laughing crudely with her mouth wide open. It's true that the deal with Jane's company is a significantly large amount for a company of our size. However, there are plenty of other companies that seek our IT skills and marketing services. I made up my mind and faced Jane. The $30 million contract is off. My name is Kent Noel. In my 40s, I run a company that widely accepts consulting, advertising, and IT-related work. Though it's been less than 10 years since I started the company, it's been growing steadily even though it's small, and we're debt-free, so there's no worry of bankruptcy. Since it's a small company with just my wife and a contract employee responsible for accounting, the business scale isn't large. However, the company's capital increases every year, and the salaries which are paid to my wife and the contractor have also been increasing year by year. The executive compensation I receive is also quite substantial, and the anxiety I had about going independent when I first started is long gone. There are many news reports about worries regarding retirement savings, but as long as I live an ordinary life, there will be no problems in the future. I earn nearly double the salary compared to company employees of my generation, and more than anything, the happiness I feel now from running my own company and being free from any constraints is indescribable. When I meet up with classmates after a long time and catch up, I often hear things like, "I envy your success," or "I wish I could live a life like yours, Kent." However, not everything was smooth sailing from the beginning. My current wife is almost 20 years younger than me, and she's often praised for being beautiful and considerate, but the truth is, she's my second wife. My first wife, Jane, and I started having problems when the company I worked for 20 years ago went bankrupt, which led to our divorce. Although Jane was also working, she seemed to be attracted to the fact that I was employed by a fairly large company, and her attitude changed drastically when she heard about the bankruptcy.
What are we going to do now? We just had a baby, and we need money.
Jane berated me as if I were useless. Our daughter, Emily, who had just started to talk, seemed to sense something even at her young age, watching us argue all the time. She gradually became quieter, rarely sought our attention, and behaved unusually mature for a 2-year-old. To stabilize Jane's mental state, I quickly found a new job and threw myself into work. Fortunately, I was still young, so I managed to find a new position, but Jane was not happy with the lower salary and the fact that it wasn't a big company.
Why did I even marry you if you can't support the family? You don't have the manliness to take care of us, and you can't make us happy. This is the end.
She handed me the divorce papers, already filled out in her rough handwriting, showing she was serious. Our marriage was already broken beyond repair, so I thought divorcing was inevitable. However, my concern was for Emily. I had no intention of leaving my beloved daughter. I had taken on the primary role in household chores and childcare, and Emily was more attached to me than Jane. Moreover, I had seen Jane take out her bad moods on Emily numerous times, so I absolutely didn't want to hand Emily over to her. Fine. But I'll take care of Emily. Can you agree to that? I asked nervously, but Jane gave a sinister smile and shook her head.
What are you talking about? She will live with me. I understand that you want to live with Emily. But you can't make us happy. You'll have to pay for that.
Glancing at the room where Emily was sleeping, Jane laughed. Her words and expression conveyed a desire to hurt me emotionally by separating me from Emily, rather than a genuine wish to raise her as a mother. I couldn't help but quietly pound the table with my fist. Enough with the jokes. Jane, you haven't even been taking proper care of Emily. I don't see how you two can make it work. Jane snorted at my plea.
Stop being emotional. I can get child support, and being with Emily will allow me to work shorter hours for the same pay. Plus, single parents surprisingly receive generous support and financial benefits.
Jane had apparently researched various government and local programs before bringing up divorce. She had thought through everything and concluded that it would be economically beneficial for her to take custody of Emily.
Your small business can't offer decent benefits, right? Just leave Emily to me.
She continued to push me away with cold eyes.
Of course, you'll pay child support until Emily becomes independent. I plan to send her to private schools from elementary through college, so she won't feel disadvantaged. Keep that in mind. Goodbye.
Jane waved her hand dismissively, then picked up the sleeping Emily, grabbed a duffel bag, and left the house. Around this time, it seemed like being with me was causing Jane a lot of stress, as she was rarely home, often staying at a hotel or someone else's place. I thought it might be better for Emily not to have parents who are constantly fighting around her. But as the divorce talks progressed, I couldn't help but feel anxious about the future. At that time, there were hardly any cases where a father could take custody of a child. I could only stare at the divorce papers thrown on the desk, holding back tears. In the end, life after the divorce went mostly according to Jane's wishes. The savings we had accumulated together were not split evenly, with Jane taking the larger share, and she also took most of the furniture and appliances. I didn't have any objections to that. My top priority was for Emily to live comfortably. The only thing that didn't go Jane's way was that I got to have regular visitation with Emily.
I'm not going to let a loser like you see her. I refuse any visitation.
Jane declared, but I couldn't accept that. I'll do anything for Emily. That's why I've made so many concessions. If you refuse visitation, I'll hire a lawyer. Are you prepared to cover those costs? If Jane had to pay for legal fees, Emily might have to live a more frugal life. So, if it came to that, I was prepared to cover the costs myself. Jane's reasoning for not allowing visitation wasn't going to hold up.
Fine.
Jane seemed to sense that I was serious and reluctantly agreed. Once a month felt insufficient, but it was precious time that I wouldn't trade for anything. One day, Jane ruined one of those precious days. That day, I had promised to take Emily, who has entered the upper elementary grades, shopping for her birthday present. Emily never asked for anything and was always considerate of others, often telling me,
"Thank you for making time even though you're busy. But you don't have to push yourself. I can bear not seeing you every month."
Seeing my child say such things with a sad face made me almost cry many times. This kind-hearted Emily, for the first time, told me what she wanted for her birthday.
"I want a necklace. I'll cherish it, so could you buy it for me?"
Hearing her say this apologetically made me smile. Of course. It's the age to be interested in fashion. What kind do you want? Emily, who was maturing physically and mentally, seemed quite grown-up compared to her peers. So, I felt that character-themed accessories wouldn't suit her. However, high-end branded accessories might not be appropriate for an elementary school student. It might feel out of place, but if she would use it for a long time, it might not be a bad choice. In the end, We decided to look around together and shop at a building that had everything from casual goods to branded items. Here's something. Want to check it out? I pointed to a jewelry store where college students might splurge, but Emily looked at the items displayed in the window and slowly shook her head. It seemed like it wasn't to her taste, or she was hesitating because of the price. Perhaps Jane had been talking to Emily about money during visitations. It was clear that Emily was avoiding anything that would be a financial burden on me. That's why I wanted to grant Emily's wish this time. In reality, my business was doing well, and I was on the verge of incorporating, so I wasn't in a tight spot financially like before with child support. As I wondered how to convey that my job was going well and that there was no financial worry, Emily suddenly looked at me.
I want to check out that store.
Emily pointed to a sophisticated goods store. At the entrance, there were accessories displayed that a mature woman might wear. Let's look around and decide. Emily, don't worry about the price. I'll get you whatever you want.
Thank you.
With that, she walked briskly as if it had been her destination all along. Sure enough, Emily immediately chose a necklace there. We'll save the brand name one for her college admission gift. I resisted the urge to buy her something better and completed the purchase. Seeing Emily happily wearing the necklace on the spot brightened my heart. It looks great on you, Emily. You look so mature. Sitting on a bench outside, eating ice cream, and lovingly stroking her necklace, Emily smiled happily when I said that. I wished these moments could last forever. As I was thinking that, I sensed someone approaching. When I looked up, there stood Jane. It's already that time. Emily, see you next month. Take care. Visitation time was over. If I let my guard down, I always felt like crying at our parting, and my throat tightened with a painful feeling. But I didn't want to show a sad face when saying goodbye. I patted Emily's face, stood up, and prepared to leave. I could feel Emily looking at me with eyes that seemed to plead for something, but if I looked at her, I felt the tears I was holding back would overflow. So I deliberately turned my back on them. Then, suddenly, Jane said something outrageous.
Emily, did you always have such a cheap-looking necklace? Did he really buy it for you today?
Her sharp words made me stop in my tracks and look back at them. Jane's mouth twisted into a sinister smile as she continued spitefully.
If you wear such tacky things, you'll end up like that person. Throw it away in the trash right now.
Jane's hand reached out to Emily, but Emily turned her back and resisted desperately. There was anger in Emily's eyes, but it seemed she had never been able to openly defy Jane before. Their usual behavior was evident in their stance. Jane didn't seem serious about taking the necklace, as she quickly turned her attention to me.
Next time, ask for a brand name item that even I can wear. Though I doubt he has the money for something like that. Emily must have been considerate. Smart girl.
That's not true.
Emily's faint voice protested, but she didn't say anything more. She just looked at me with sad eyes. Staying here any longer would only add stress to both Emily and me. I waved awkwardly at Emily and finally left the spot. Before turning the corner, I saw Jane and Emily getting into a luxury car. A man I didn't know was in the driver's seat, indicating that Jane had probably remarried. Though I was curious, I tried not to discuss their new family life. It was obvious it would ruin the good mood of the day. Wishing for Emily's happiness, I watched the luxury car drive away. As I was deep in thought, memories of Jane's past treatment suddenly flashed before me. I used to see Emily once a month, but now that she's in college, we only meet a few times a year, though we stay in touch. Hearing about how she's enjoying her college life away from home is enough to make me happy. What's troubling me now is an unexpected business meeting. My wife was supposed to attend a rather significant business deal, but she has been feeling unwell since yesterday. So, I'm going in her place, but I was surprised to see the name of the person I'd be meeting. It was Jane. I remembered hearing from Emily that Jane was job hunting when Emily was in high school. Emily had been worried about college or starting work, and we had a conversation about it back then. Emily was concerned about the child support, so I assured her that my business was doing well and she didn't need to worry. I had forgotten about Jane until this connection suddenly appeared. I had heard from Emily that Jane hadn't changed her last name even after remarrying because it was too much hassle, so I instinctively tensed up at the mention of that name. The deal involved integrating our developed system into their company's advertising business, amounting to over $30 million. Personal feelings aside, I couldn't let it affect the business deal. Besides, I hadn't seen Jane in years. Maybe she had matured during that time. With that faint hope, I headed to the company where Jane presumably worked. Entering the impressive glass-fronted office, I was shown to a meeting room. After a while, Jane entered, following a staff member who served coffee.
It's been a while. I got an email about a change in the business meeting, but I never expected it to be you. Glad you managed to get hired by a company on the right track.
From the email yesterday, it seemed she knew I was coming, and she showed no surprise. Moreover, she seemed to think I was just an employee, and her eyes carried the same disdain as before.
The woman who was handling the business before seemed competent, but seeing you here is disappointing. Both of us managed to get into good companies, but will you bring this one down too? You're like a plague.
Her words were still as bitter as ever. I listened silently, not letting my emotions get the better of me. Seeing my lack of reaction, Jane continued.
I have no intention of doing business with a company that has people like you. Are you trying to ruin my company? Why don't you just leave already?
Jane waved her hand as if shooing away a bug and opened the door, gesturing for me to leave.
When you get back, your company's CEO will be pulling his hair out. A big deal for a small company, ruined by an incompetent employee.
Jane said in her shrill voice, laughing crudely. It's true that the deal with Jane's company is significantly large for a company of our size. However, there are plenty of other companies that seek our IT skills and marketing services. I made up my mind and faced Jane. The $30 million contract is off. Let's consider all previous discussions null and void. Looking at the long term, it would be better for our company not to engage with Jane's company. A partner who looks down on us and is this disrespectful. Her company isn't trustworthy and could have a negative impact on our company. Jane seemed taken aback by my unexpected response, then laughed and said,
What will you report to your boss? Don't blame me. Make sure you apologize for your lack of ability.
Seeing how little Jane understood the situation, I spoke plainly. I don't have a boss to report to or seek approval from. I pushed the business card towards her as I spoke. Jane's eyes widened in shock as she read it.
What? You're the CEO of this company?
Yes, I did start my own business, but we don't have as many employees as your company. We can't compare to someone as accomplished as you. I continued in a polite tone, maintaining my distance from Jane. It's practically a family business, but we've been increasing our internal reserves and are looking to invest and expand soon. Let's do our best. As I prepared to leave the meeting room, Jane's demeanor changed completely.
You don't have to be so formal. Our company is open to a long-term relationship. Why don't we catch up over coffee sometime? I don't know much about what you've been up to lately.
Jane's attitude shift after learning I was the CEO disgusted me. I had no intention of spending any more time on her. I'm busy, so I'll take my leave now. With that, I shook off Jane's attempts to stop me and left the company. After that, through my wife's sales efforts and my network, we secured several sizable contracts, although not as large as Jane's company. In total, they exceeded $30 million. All these companies treated us with respect, and diversifying our contracts spread out the risk over the long term. We had been running debt-free, but it might be time to take a bank loan, hire more people, and expand the business. During a break, I was eating ice cream on a park bench I rarely used. Next to me was Emily. Sitting here with her brought back memories of the day I bought her a necklace when she was in the elementary grades.
I'm about to start job hunting. Dad, how did you choose your company?
Our conversations had grown much more mature compared to the past. Emily had always been mature for her age, but thinking about her becoming independent now filled me with deep emotion. As we chatted, a voice called out from behind. It was Jane. It felt like déjà vu, but the difference was Jane's attitude towards me.
I've been looking for you. You wouldn't see me at your office. Emily told me you'd be here today.
Emily had mentioned, Mom contacted me, which is rare, indicating Jane had been tracking me down. Feeling annoyed, I asked her what she wanted. What is it? Can this wait? I tried to gently push Jane away for Emily's sake, but she ignored me and sat on the bench.
You spend all your time with Emily. Can't you spare some time for me?
What are you talking about? We're not in that kind of relationship anymore. As I was dealing with Jane's persistence, Emily joined the conversation.
I get it. It was my fault for telling her where you'd be. Sorry, Dad, but can you give her some time? In return, Mom, don't ever interrupt when I'm with Dad again.
Emily's clear and assertive words gave me a sense of pride in her growth. Jane seemed satisfied with the arrangement, nodding in agreement. Fine. But Emily will be present. Given our past, I don't want any misunderstandings with your husband.
That's fine.
Jane seemed slightly displeased, but we moved to a nearby cafe to talk. So, what do you want to discuss? I wanted to get this over with quickly, so I got straight to the point. Emily seemed to feel the same, silently watching Jane.
I heard you're running a company. That's impressive. I looked into it, and your finances are solid. It looks like you're going to grow even more.
We're managing. Thanks to that, spending time with Emily on my rare days off is precious to me. Whether she caught the sarcasm or not, Jane started saying something unbelievable.
We could make it work now. Why don't we start over?
Both Emily and I were shocked, but Jane was dead serious. I shook my head firmly at her outrageous suggestion. You're remarried. Even if Emily has moved out, you should cherish your current partner.
I've never loved anyone but you. If you forgive me, I'll divorce my husband anytime.
She said it so easily. What Jane loved was my title as CEO of a successful company. Emily looked at her mother with disdain, clearly embarrassed by her behavior. Sorry, but we can't go back. Besides, the capable employee you mentioned is my wife. Please don't ruin our happiness. Jane turned red as I pointed out the unchangeable truth.
What's so great about that woman? She must have only approached you for your money.
I had met my wife before starting my company, so that was certainly not the case. However, Jane kept ranting about my wife, making baseless accusations. Just as my anger was boiling over, Emily slammed her hand on the table.
Enough. Dad is happy now. How can you destroy someone's life like this?
Thank you, Emily. I said to Emily, who was almost in tears. Emily wiped her eyes and looked at Jane with determination.
I'm cutting ties with you, Mom. Don't contact me or Dad ever again.
With that, Emily took the bill and headed to the cashier. Leaving the stunned Jane behind, I followed Emily. After that, Jane never visited or contacted me again. Knowing I had a wife and Emily's declaration of estrangement must have hit her hard. Jane was clearly after my money, and with her only daughter disowning her, her plans fell apart. Maybe she could control Emily when she was young, but Emily was now an independent adult. Jane had a partner, so hopefully, they could get along. However, Jane eventually divorced her husband. She had been driving a luxury car, but her ways of making money were not commendable. She had been gathering money through near-scam methods and selling dubious information products, but investigations left her broke. Jane divorced over money again, and even Emily didn't know where she was living now. For Jane, the end of money meant the end of the relationship. If something happens to me, the procedures are in place for my wife and Emily to inherit. Emily also formally cut ties with Jane, ensuring no inheritance would go to her. I hope Jane finds true trust and relationships and that she experiences peaceful days. Years later, I now stand nervously at the door in a neat suit.
You're more nervous than I am.
Emily, in a beautiful dress, laughed beside me. Today is Emily's wedding day. Of course. This is my first time walking my daughter down the aisle.
It's my first time too, you know.
Emily, elegant and poised, suddenly looked at me seriously.
Dad, thank you for everything. I'll need you in the future too. Please live a long life.
Emily, wearing a luxurious dress and accessories befitting the bride, looked stunning. Around her neck, the necklace I bought when she was in the elementary grades